Hello and welcome to the Sports Podcast presented by the Collings Thode Network. I'm your host, Curtis Collings, joined by
Nolan, Thode.
Now, we're going to be talking about the NHL, do a little bit of a breakdown, and actually talk about the Oilers versus Sabres game that one of us was at last night.
Yeah, I saw the Oilers play the Sabres last night. It was a fun game. If you've never seen a game in Buffalo, I mean, I don't know where you guys are based geographically, where you're listening from, but I feel like Buffalo does a good job. They do a good game, and the Oilers were victorious. Connor McDavid's incredible. He's got 54 goals, I want to say, on the season, which is a new career high. He also set his career high in points.
Yeah, you nailed it with him being a goal scorer this year. You absolutely sniped that.
I'm happy about it.
You better be.
And he's shooting at like I don't know what his normal shots are, but he's like top 10 in the league in shots. He's got to be.
He's shooting at a big clip this year.
Wow. Number 2 in the league in shots. But, so he's number 2 in the league in shots with 288. And with 54 goals, he's at an 18.8 shooting percentage. So
that's astronomical.
Shots is going
that's crazy.
In. Like was over 20%.
Like, there was a season where, like, Nazem Kadri on the Leafs was shooting around, like, 18%, and people were like, this is a fluke. There's no way he keeps this up. And now McDavid's doing it this season, and it's, like, 54 goals. He's gonna win the Richard. Like, an insane season. I'm envious of you that you've gotten to see him live and in person during this season. Like, that, yeah. What an incredible experience that must have been.
And not even just this season. I think he's a player that, he's a big-ticket item. You gotta go see him at some point. I don't think you have.
I've never before, but no. As a hockey fan, that's a requirement now. Like, you have to see McDavid live at least once.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it was a good game. The Sabres, so the Sabres are my second favorite team behind Edmonton, and there was a part of me that was hoping overtime just for 3 points to be handed out, because both the Oilers and Sabres are, in the thick of it in terms of the playoff.
Yeah, they both need those points a lot.
It's crazy to say that for the Sabres. It's crazy to say that for Buffalo. But yeah, Buffalo needed those points. So it felt good to win, but then afterwards it was like regulation win. It's going to hurt Buffalo more than it's going to help Oilers, I think. But no, it was a good game. It was a fun time.
Oh, absolutely. And just going to a game, especially around this time, like, that must be intense too, because it's like, I mean, watching the Oilers, you're clearly missing guys on the ice. I mean, a big one, Jesse Puljujarvi, just shipped off. He definitely was not dressed for that game. So, like,
no.
Just seeing the different rosters, and I guess, like, Buffalo didn't change too much. They didn't make too many moves, but, like, it's just, like, it must be so interesting just to go watch a game live during this time.
Yeah. No, yeah, I think there's just a little bit, like, it was a 3-2 game in regulation. It had a little bit of a playoff vibe to it in terms of just, like, both teams needed to win. Not necessarily needed to, but, like...
But just the feeling.
That's what they're saying in the locker room, I'm sure, Every win's a must-win game this point in the season when you're trying to make the playoffs. But, yeah, I mean, there's a few new faces. Obviously, we'll get into it. But it was a pretty eventful trade deadline. I find the NHL trade deadline, there's usually a few pieces... But we had some star power this year.
Yeah, some huge star power this year. Usually I feel like it's overshadowed just by the star power of the NBA. But I feel like this year was one of the first years where the star power for hockey might have been greater. Other than Kevin Durant. But, I honestly think...
for a basketball episode.
Yeah. But, of course, I really think that the stars that were shipped off, like, we've never seen this many big-ticket players moved all at once. So
yeah, there's a lot of movement in the league.
It even starts with, like, Bo Horvat being shipped off, like, and that, like, was before the All-Star break and everything. So it's like we're already forgetting that was, like, the first big domino to fall.
Yeah, the last time you and I talked about hockey on the podcast, we were mentioning how quiet of a trade season it had been.
Yeah.
And now we can see why, just because it seemed like everyone was kind of waiting for this point in the season. And I think a reason why there's so much movement of the big players is I feel like the separation between the top teams and the bottom teams. Bottom teams really have nothing to play for at this point and might as well get some picks out of the hungry top teams who need anything that can, and I'm really excited for the rest of the season.
Say that again. You froze a little bit.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just think uh, there's just a big disparity between the top teams and the bottom teams, and the bottom teams really have nothing to lose, so might as well ship your guys off because
Yeah,
the
that's a
top
great
teams are
point.
super hungry. Top teams are super hungry because they need to do anything they can to get an edge over opposition because there's some powerhouses.
Oh, I definitely agree with that. I definitely feel like it's more so this year than other years, and we're seeing teams like the San Jose Sharks actually sell. We're seeing teams like the Coyotes actually sell, and it's like there's a lot less like reluctancy to hold on to your star players now. I feel like than in other years. I guess that would be because of just how strong the top teams are and how much they need these players to stay in the top. Um, that's what I was thinking about with the Bruins a lot and the Lightning a lot, which is like a lot of their trades, it feels like they were reactionary to other moves, where it's like, oh, this team loaded up, let's load up more ourselves.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
Yeah, no, I fully believe that. But yeah, you mentioned. And we'll jump in. That was the first trade to kind of things off. Borat, no longer a Vancouver Canuck.
yeah.
He is having a crazy good season, and he gets traded to the New York Islanders in exchange for first-round pick Anthony Beauvillier and Atu Ratti, who was a former highly touted prospect, has fallen off a little bit. Still something for Canucks fans, I guess, to look forward to, though.
Yeah,
But,
hold on to. I mean, he was like one of the top-ranked prospects in the Islanders pool, so that is something to hold on
I mean,
to.
he gave up, I'd say, first-round pick. That's a level asset to receive back, especially from the Islanders. They're kind of like middle of the first round type team. It
Middle
is top
10,
10
yeah.
protected. It is top 10 protected. I mean, Vancouver doesn't have that pick anymore. We'll get into that. But I like Beauvillier. I think he's a good middle six forward. I don't think he's a good first line forward.
No.
He's just a little too. I don't know. I'd say he's got a great offensive game, not so much a complete game.
He's not really seasoned enough yet.
Like Vancouver needs any more players that are only good offensively. Quite a mess there. They were pretty interesting at the deadline.
Yeah.
I mean, I like what they did. I like what they got for Bo.
I didn't want to call them
Bo-
losers, but I almost had them on the borderline. Because, I see what they're going for. I don't think it had the most. I don't think this is as good as it could have been, but I definitely think they could have done way worse.
Yep.
So,
I do like the return for Bo. And then Bo obviously signs an 8-year extension in New York, which might have been a little too long.
just a bit.
I'm not like so mad at the money because 8.5, it's just the market price, like what you're gonna have to pay a guy who's coming off a career year kind of thing to keep him long term. And I think Bo Horvat, he's not just a goal scorer and point getter. You know, he's a great face-off guy. He's a great leader in the locker room, and he's certainly worth $8.5 million to the team.
I completely agree. It's
and
it's hard to stomach it right now.
Yeah, I think I think that contract and a lot of the other contracts on the Islanders' books right now, like the Lee contract and Pajot contract, I think they will get their final grade depending on how well the Islanders do.
Honestly,
when it's all said and done.
Yeah.
I mean, they were a true contender a few years ago. Like,
Oh, yeah, taking the Lightning
two
very
straight Eastern
deep.
Conference Finals appearances, I'm pretty sure.
Yep, both against the Lightning. It's just, it's hard to stomach a lot of these
They
contracts
just lost
now
the
that they're in this mid position.
But even then, like, I feel like some people do overreact to contracts and stuff like that too. Like, Brock Nelson got, like, I don't know, 6x6 or 6.5 or something like that, and that wasn't necessarily a good contract at the time being, but like he's almost done that contract in 2 years. Like,
Yeah.
those like time goes by quicker than you think. It's like all of a sudden the new contract is up and they need an extension.
And it's not like every contract's going to end up like the Louis Eriksson contract. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
you could pump the brakes a bit on that. And yeah, like, they got a lot of flack just for putting a lot of, like, investing a lot into this one guy who probably won't put you up into that upper echelon. But he's a great player, and he's a great leader, and him and Barzal will be a very good 1-2 for the Islanders for a while. So I think
they were exciting for a bit, and then Barzal unfortunately got hurt.
Yeah, which sucks.
That hurt them down the stretch. Yeah.
But no, and then we go into the All-Star break, and then what's the first moves that happen after that?
The first trade, we have another big ticket player. I mean, somewhat big ticket. I would say so. I would definitely say so 5 years ago. Vladimir Tarasenko traded to the New York Rangers for a first, a fourth, but I wrote in brackets third because it's if the Rangers make the playoffs, it becomes a third.
Oh, so yeah, it's a third.
I think it's safe to assume that happens. And then Sammy Blais also back to the Blues, and then there's some other depth pieces involved, but I'd say those were the most important pieces.
And
what are your thoughts on the trade?
I love the trade for the Rangers. This first round pick's gonna be like what, 26th, 27th, like maybe even 30th, 31st, like maybe even 32nd. It's like, how much is this pick really gonna matter? And Sammy Blais was kind of just a nothing piece and a third rounder for a guy that makes your top six. Added on with another trade piece, but a guy that makes your top six the best top six in the league, over the Leafs, over the Oilers, over the Lightning. Like, I love this trade for them. Whether or not he plays on the first line with Zibanejad and Kane, or whether he plays with Kreider, Panarin, it does not matter. This team is so good, and it's just such a stacked top six now. I don't think they could have done better.
41 goals in 90 playoff games for Tarasenko. It's pretty good.
It's better. Like, he scores at a better rate than Matthews does in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean,
like
he's a guy, and those goals. I mean, I don't know if it's a stat on it specifically, but I'm sure a lot of them are like clutch goals, because I feel like a lot of the times when St. Louis needed a goal, Tarasenko would be that guy to step
absolutely.
Up. So, big guy for the Rangers to acquire. And then, you kind of mentioned Patrick Kane. I mean, I guess we can jump right into that and kind of just go over the Rangers, because they bolstered their top six forward group by acquiring Patrick Kane as well, which a lot of people, including Patrick Kane himself, didn't really think was going to happen after the Tarasenko trade. Patrick Kane actually tweeted, like, being disappointed or something like that, because New York, like, it wasn't revealed until after, but like pretty much New York was the only place he was going to accept a trade to. He wanted to play with Panarin. And now they're reunited. The package was a second that becomes a first if the Rangers reach the Eastern Conference Finals, which I think could happen.
I think they do.
Very plausible. I just think it's so tough, because that's them winning 2 series, and in like 2 series in the East. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's gonna be tough, but here. But yeah, it was a second, and then the first becomes a second, or the second becomes a first if they make the Eastern Conference Finals. Another second, a third, a fourth. And then Arizona gets a third round pick, because they did what Minnesota did a couple other trades. They just took some salary off of Kane's contract and got a pick for it. I mean, just to pay some money to get a third round pick. Like, I really like the teams that did that in the 3-team deals, like, to work on the cap. Just like, if you have the money, like, it's just money for the rest of the season.
It allows more hockey moves to happen, I find. It allows just more player swaps to happen, as, like, when the cap would have not allowed it to happen in the first place. Like, we're seeing a lot more roster flexibility because of these third teams stepping in and stomaching some money. And I love that. I think that's awesome.
Yeah. No, I really like it. It doesn't make the teams at the top, like, kind of... Like I said, they got Tarasenko. People thought that was it, because they acquired a guy with a pretty hefty contract, at least money-wise, and they thought that closed the door on Kane, because he's making quite a bit of money too. But Arizona steps in and allows for New York to have a really exciting team. People question the defense a little bit, which I don't. I mean, they got pieces: Keandre Miller, Adam Fox, Jacob Trouba. Like,
I'm fine with it still.
Guys that can play. Shesterkin's a good goalie. Was the Vezina winner last year.
Been a bit more mid this season, but still, like, come playoff time, I'm putting my money on Shesterkin.
Yeah, exactly. He's a guy that can steal games in a playoff series. And then if he's not playing well, their top six, I believe, is so their first line. I think what they're going with is Panarin, Trocheck, Kane.
Yeah,
Pretty good.
that's pretty insane,
And then
especially with the
second
two-way
line,
play of Trocheck.
and then the second line, which honestly you could argue is even better.
Yeah.
Chris Kreider, Mika Zibanejad, and Vladimir Tarasenko.
Yeah. Like,
just a great line. And then that opens up. This line has been playing together for most of the season, but I like it as a good third line. Capo Caco on the left side, Philip Hedl in the middle, and then Lafreniere on the right.
yeah, the kid line from the playoffs last year.
Or flip Lafreniere and Caco.
Yeah.
But yeah, like
the kid line.
I just find if Gerard Gallant, who's their coach, which is kind of like you kind of forget that sometimes. It's like, wait, he's in New York.
Yeah.
I think if he can get, the most out of that third line, I think that third line is like the key to their success because everyone knows what the top six is going to do. The other teams are going to be, putting their best guys up against those guys defensively or whatever to try to shut them down. And you're going to need, games where Lafreniere is the hero.
Yeah,
because
he has to. You need those.
Yeah,
you need those games where the number 2 pick and the number 1 pick from their respective draft classes look like it, and so no, and they're now giving them their entire third line just to say like, you go do it, go be those guys.
And then their fourth line is pretty solid as well.
Gaudreau.
I know Barclay Goodrow's on it. They acquired Tyler Mott as well.
Yes, the Steve Dangle podcast guys were really high on them acquiring Mott because he's been a guy that's been in the Rangers system before. He knows how they play, and so he's going to slot in immediately and make an impact.
Mm-hmm. And then, I don't know, someone is
whoever
forward on that line. I'll try to figure it out. But I mean, the Rangers, they just look like a really good team. They've lost both games, I'm pretty sure, with Kane in the lineup. Some people are starting to freak out. It is what it is.
That's
They'll
hockey.
Make the playoffs.
I think they were the ultimate winner of this trade deadline.
Mm-hmm. I think they went all in, but it's not necessarily like they. I think maybe it's because Tarasenko and Kane are a little bit older, a bit past their trade value prime. But it's not like they gave up so much.
They didn't mortgage their entire future on them.
At very worst. And this is with them reaching the Eastern Conference Finals and doing well. They're giving up a first, 2 seconds, or maybe not even 2 seconds. I don't know. Just not too bad.
Yeah, maybe two firsts, a second, and a fourth, and then Prospect and Sammy Blaze. Mm-hmm. And you get Patrick Kane, Vladimir Tarasenko, Tyler Mott, 3 guys that are
Jimmy VC is the fourth line other guy.
Hobie Baker winner.
Mm-hmm.
But
Leaf legend.
But no, I definitely think that they were the top team, but maybe the Bruins are tied with them. Honestly, in my mind, for the number 1 winner of the trade deadline.
Yeah, the first move they did, they acquired from the Washington Capitals Dmitry Orlov and Garnet Hathaway.
Yeah.
Usually the second piece is whatever, but Garnet Hathaway is a great bottom 6
He's going to fit in so well.
Yeah, the Leafs have Noel Acciari. The Bruins used to have Noel Acciari. Hathaway is that kind of guy now for them. Just the guy who's just a shit disturber.
Yeah, and then they went on and grabbed another shit disturber in Tyler Bertuzzi.
Yeah, but a shit disturber that can turn it up, and I don't know why. He just sounds like a playoff hero in the making. He's never done it before in Detroit.
He hasn't had the chance, really.
He hasn't had the chance. But I could see him firing 10 goals in a postseason.
Oh, yeah, me too. Absolutely. My notes for these trades are love this for the Bruins, hate it for the Leafs, though. Mm-hmm. If the Leafs match up with the Bruins in the playoffs, whether it be the second round or the first round, it won't be the first round. But it'll probably be in the second round if it happens. They're going to lose.
It'd be a great series.
It would be so good, but they will lose.
Going back to something you said earlier about teams kind of doing stuff in response, I think the Orlov part was something that the Bruins wanted. That big defenseman. They're also on Chychrun. We'll get to his trade later. But I think maybe getting a Garnet Hathaway type is a response to the Leafs getting Olichari, just because, they want more grit in their bottom six.
Yeah. Also, I don't know what
the
timeline is as well, but there's the Tanner Jeannot move too, which also feels like a reactionary trade.
Yeah. The full return on the Orlov and Hathaway trade was a first, second, third. Craig Smith, and then the Wild got a fifth for retaining some salary.
I don't mind that package for the Bruins. That's pretty cheap.
And Orlov's a really underrated guy. I feel like
he was Orlov was playing 22 minutes a night in Washington
because of John Carlson. Yeah, I feel like because of John Carlson, that's kind of the name you think of when you think Capitals D. Who, I mean, he hasn't been healthy this season.
No.
But Dmitry Orlov gets overshadowed a bit, but he's a great player. He's, like you said, 20 minutes a night. Great offensive guy and pretty responsible in his own end. He was a big part of the Capitals Cup run.
Huge.
I believe in 2018. But yeah, and then obviously Hathaway's a good guy too. And then Tanner Jeannot, as you mentioned. This is a controversial trade for a lot of people. I'm a little hesitant to overreact, just because people love to overreact to trades right away.
Yeah.
People love to grade them and rank a winner of the trade and stuff like that. It's so hard because, the perfect example for me is Mikael Granlund got traded for Kevin Fiala 1-for-1 at the deadline like a few years ago.
Yeah.
And NHL Discussion, shout out, the Instagram account had a poll like who won the trade, and it was like 90-10 for the Predators winning for getting Granlund. And Fiala, I mean,
we see it now.
Yeah, exactly.
We see it clear as day now. Top 50 player in the league, top 20, like top 30 player in the league in some circles.
Yeah, he's been the Kings' best player this season.
Kings' best player. He can also do a bit of two-way play, like. And now
trades need to breathe.
And Granlund actually got moved to the Penguins, I think.
He did.
The mid get midder. That's all I have to say about that. The Penguins are going to miss the playoffs, and it's going to be hilarious.
I hope they miss the playoffs. I think they squeak in just because Penguins.
No. I see the Capitals making the playoffs over the Penguins at this point.
Yeah, I see the Senators making the playoffs over the Penguins at this point.
Yeah. I don't see Caps making the playoffs either, which we'll get into later when we talk power rankings, but
the Tanner Jeannot full details on that trade. First round pick, a second round pick, a third round pick, a fourth round pick, a fifth round pick. I don't have all the years on these picks. They're from different years.
Yeah, they're all scattered.
Tampa's going to be good for a while. I don't think it affects long-term trades. And then also Cal Foote, which I'm happy about that because Tampa just has such a great defensive core. He kind of gets buried, and he wasn't really given the chance to be a top four defenseman. Ryan McDonough went from Tampa to Nashville. If you go back to the NHL preview episode, I was like all over that move. I thought it was going to make the Preds like really, really good.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they're kind of mid. But it's a familiar guy for Cal Foote to go in. I don't know if it's his D partner. It might be. But I like him in Nashville, and I want him to succeed because Cal Foote, Adam Foote, they actually Adam Foote works for the Vancouver Canucks, some role.
Yeah.
And the Canucks and the Predators played last night, and then they took a pic together, like Cal and Adam Foote, and the Nashville Predators official Instagram commented feet pics. Because it's like foot and foot.
Because it's 2 foot.
Yeah, which I thought was funny. But now Tanner Jeannot, the big player from the trade, I guess.
Yeah, big bruising, second-year player.
I think if you look at the stats of goals, assists, points, you're going to be like, who are they paying this much for? But he had 24 goals as a rookie last year.
Led all rookies in hits and penalty minutes.
Mm-hmm. He got a couple of Calder, like not first place votes, but he got some Calder votes. I don't know. I think he's an underrated player just because people don't really think of Nashville that much. Let alone their depth.
And it's been such a bad offensive season for Nashville, where it's like, get him out of there, free him.
Yeah, the Tampa Bay famously have given up first round picks for Barclay Goodrow, Blake Coleman, I think, as well, and
Hagel.
then also Brandon Hagel, and all three of those players have turned out to be like really good players for Tampa,
Cup
really good
contributors. Yeah, exactly.
Unfortunately, not Hagel because, well, I guess they made it to the Cup final last year.
Yeah, and he's
That's something
still
that's
around
very,
too.
like, weirdly forgotten.
Yeah,
Tampa going back to back to back each
they could make it 4 this year, and I wouldn't be surprised.
conference, like a team to beat in the playoffs. They haven't lost. The last Eastern Conference playoff series Tampa lost was Columbus in 2019.
That's
Kinda crazy to think.
it's still such a crazy stat.
Um,
For the Tanner
yeah.
Jeannot trade, my notes for it, just my one line note is huge overpay. But then again, the value of Lightning first round picks is so low. It's just the depth, because Lightning always drafts so good in the late rounds. That's the only reason I say it's a huge overpay. Because I think they could have gotten a Tanner Jeannot-esque player in one of those draft picks they gave up, in one of those 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, because Tanner Jeannot was an undrafted rookie. So there's no reason you can't replicate that. But the other thing I wrote is this will end up killing the Leafs in the playoffs. This will murder them. He will be the reason. He will be the Nick Paul of this season.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's
Still have
going
Nick
to
Paul,
be
right?
painful, and they still do have him, yes.
The Tampa Bay's a team that gets overlooked just because they're just nobody really focuses on them in the regular
And
season.
the other thing, too, is that they get all these rentals and then keep them. And then they just have now this... Their bottom 6 is better than a lot of teams' top 6s, just because of how solid it is. It's not like knock your socks off talent, but it's like all of those guys could be second liners on any other team, but they're on the Lightning.
Yeah, the third line right now is Ross Colton, Nick Paul, Tanner Jeannot.
How are you not going to tell me all those guys are second or even first liners on different teams?
Yeah, I think they could put themselves in those positions.
It's like when they had Yanni Gord. Like Yanni Gord, and now he's gone and put himself in a position to be a top 6 forward.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I think Tampa, they just kind of have this formula to playoff success, and Tanner Jeannot fits that.
Yep.
You know,
Another name, Matthew Joseph, now on the Senators, who's been excelling. It's just they produce these guys, and then now they're bringing in guys, and it's just they got a good eye for him. They got a great eye for depth, and I guess maybe other teams are catching on to that too. Like when you get the Lightning calling you up, you got to be like, all right, what's the catch here? Why do you actually want this guy? And
exactly.
Yeah, maybe the Predators realize that.
The Capitals wish they didn't trade Garnet Hathaway to the Bruins and traded him to the Lightning to the first. Yeah. I mean, we just talked a lot about the Bruins and the Lightning. Go into the third super team who got Ryan O'Reilly, the Leafs.
O'Reilly.
I'll give this one to you.
I am so hyped about this.
Unfortunately, did break his finger. We got a little taste of him. Got a hat trick against Buffalo.
That was very exciting.
But I think playoff O'Reilly is the reason.
That's the only thing I'm looking forward to. Out 4 weeks now. I don't care. Like, it sucks, obviously. You like the conditioning. But he's a hockey player. This won't really affect him. The biggest thing for me is just championship DNA. This is a guy that's been there, done that, and won a Conn Smythe while doing it. Who can you look to on this Leafs team and say, oh, they got championship DNA. They got playoff DNA. Ryan O'Reilly. Nolan
Chari, who they also got in the trade.
And then other than that, no one. So
Matt Murray.
Two-time
champion.
But it's these moves, and it's like, I hate these moves because they make me confident. They get me so excited. Because we also added depth. This is the most aggressive I've seen the Leafs ever at a trade deadline before. Adding McCabe and Lafferty as well, who I can't get enough of. I've wanted the Leafs to add McCabe since he absolutely flattened Laine on that open ice hit in Buffalo. So I'm so happy to bring him in, and he's going to be part of the team for 3 years on a retained contract, and Lafferty's going to be on the team next season too. So it's not even like they're rentals. Like, we're bringing in these guys to be part of the team, to be part of the culture. And then Ashari and Ryan O'Reilly are the true rentals. But they're the championship DNA. They're the playoff DNA that this team needs, and I hate it because it gets me excited, and it gives me actual hope as a Leafs fan. Because every year, as we get closer to the playoffs, I get actual hope, and then they lose. Mm-hmm. I feel like they're actually...
Leafs over under 1.5 round wins.
Under, still. I think...
If they lose in the first round this year, they will set the NHL record for consecutive first round exits.
Tied
and that's
with
not like
the...
that's not like playoff appearances. That's like year after year after year.
Isn't that, what, Minnesota Wild?
I don't know.
I think it was Minnesota Wild from the 2010s.
Could be. The full details on the Ryan O'Reilly trade: Leafs gave up a first. Fair. Ottawa's third.
Which they got in the Matt Murray trade, I think.
From the Murray trade.
Yep.
A second, and then they also traded a fourth to Minnesota to take some of Ryan O'Reilly's salary. So Minnesota has gotten a fifth and a fourth just from paying some money, which I really like. And then, you talked about the McCabe trade. They gave up a first and a second in that one, and then also Joey Anderson.
Oh, no. Marley legend.
Yeah. I mean, I guess... The Leafs made a lot of moves. I'm just going to run through them and then give your quick thoughts. So they did those two moves. People were happy about them. Then they also traded Pierre Engvall
him too.
To the New York Islanders for a third. What are your thoughts on that?
Get him out of town. Yeah. There's been enough Engvall in Toronto.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious as to how he does in New York.
I think he's going to do a lot better in New York than he did in Toronto.
If I'm not mistaken, he's on the first line with Anders Lee and Bo Horvat.
I'm sorry, Bo Horvat.
Yeah, but okay. So, and then they also traded Rasmus Sandin to the Washington Capitals for Eric Gustafsson, and then they acquired the first round pick that was traded to Washington
from the
Boston
Orlov deal, which I love that trade. I thought they were gonna do something. I thought they were gonna do something with the first, like pick up a goalie, so we're not really screwed. But I guess they're gonna trust Joseph Woll, who I can trust. Sure. I guess they're just gonna hold it till the draft. I still think they gotta move that pick at some point.
I don't know. Maybe you keep it.
Draft a Sandin replacement. But
yeah, exactly.
I don't mind seeing him shipped out of town as well. He's a guy that needed a fresh start so bad. And I really as we saw in Washington, he was incredible in his 5
points in 2 games.
Yeah. I think it's legit the place he needed to go. I think he's also going to
change of scenery was really good for him.
He's going to bond really well with a lot of guys there. I think they have a bunch of...
He did well in the stretch where Morgan Riley was down. And I think what really took him away from reaching his potential in Toronto was just the fact that, even if Morgan Riley's out of the lineup and he's getting top pairing minutes, he knows he doesn't have them, set in stone type of thing.
Yeah, he's got to grip his stick a little tighter.
When everyone was healthy, he was just kind of, didn't show up as much as he did when he needed to. But now in Washington, he's, they need him to step up, and he's doing so. And I'm really happy to see it, at least.
Yeah, I'm happy to see
like
it as
Sandin
well.
As a player, and I don't know.
I'm happy the Leafs chose...
I feel like Washington's a good fit for him.
I do. I'm happy the Leafs chose Liljegren over him.
Yeah.
Because I definitely think he has a lot more upside.
And then the Leafs did make one more trade. They acquired Luke Schenn, former Leaf.
From
the Vancouver Canucks for a third-round pick. So I don't know if it was the same as the Islanders trade, but they got a pick and gave a pick.
I think it was literally they made the Engvall trade and then they made that trade immediately.
I don't know if it's the same pick, but Engvall for Schenn, give or take.
Pretty much, yeah.
Uh,
That's how I would describe it, because they happen
Which
literally
helped- which-
15 minutes apart, and I love it. I think, like, I know it's another left-handed defenseman, but at this point, who cares?
No, is he lefty?
I can
I think he's righty.
look it up, but even then, if he's right-handed, that's even better. Looks to be left-handed, but oh no, I'm wrong. He's right-handed, which is great. Right-handed defenseman, Leafs could play in their top four. I definitely think a guy like Timothy
Hall.
Liljegren could learn a lot from him, and he knocks Hall effectively out of the lineup. So, no, I've like nothing but good things to say about the Leafs acquiring Luke Schenn. And I'm just going to hope that the media is a lot nicer to him this time around. Because that was the big story about him the last time, especially with me growing up, is that the popular thing was just to hate on Luke Schenn, especially after we grabbed JVR, who I absolutely love. And I don't know why the Flyers didn't move. Like, they said they didn't get any good offers, but even then, a 4th-round pick is good enough at that point.
No, they Fletcher. He was saying like they weren't even getting a 4th-round pick.
Not even a 4th?
So, yeah, I mean,
Damn. I guess they just
still-
no one wants that contract.
but is it expiring? I think it is.
Again, I could
retained-
look that up.
I don't know. I just think the market value for JVR has gone down. I don't know why. I don't mind him.
I guess just
as a bottom 6 like PP2 kind of guy at this point in his career. I
yeah,
don't think
he's kind of that James Neal role where it's like,
Yeah.
do we really need him at this point? Like in 2023 hockey, is that role needed? And this is in fact the last year of
Yeah.
his deal. So like it's $7 million.
It was interesting. I found. I guess they keeping him to sell tickets, or I mean, keeping him because I feel like him going back to Philly is a sign of like that's kind of where he wants to be. So
That's what I
keep
thought.
him, have no gap in, but maybe he wants to go compete for a cup. But I think he probably resigns.
Yeah, I think he just wants to finish out his career comfortably. I wouldn't lie.
Okay, I'm just gonna run through some quick trades.
Yeah, actually,
necessarily-
I do actually, before we do quick trades, because I definitely have the depth trades written down, I do want to talk, like, actually properly talk about the Oilers, because I have them as one of my winners of the trade deadline, and I really like what they did.
Yeah,
Matthias
we made two
Ekholm,
moves.
Matthias Ekholm's the biggest one for me. My one line note for Matthias Ekholm is this is the defenseman I feel like the Oilers have needed for a while. And it
Yeah.
feels great to see them actually do it.
Yeah, so the first move that we made, a lot of people were like making jokes that Ken Holland was sleeping and stuff like that, and,
Yeah.
and he wasn't going to do anything, which I wouldn't have been a fan of. I don't think
no.
the team before the deadline was good enough. I think
Me
good,
neither.
sure, but when you have the opportunity to acquire guys like this, you do it. And we traded, we give up a little bit of a hefty package, but I think it's absolutely worth it for Matthias Ekholm.
I
We gave up
completely agree.
our first round pick this year, our first round pick last year, Reed Schaefer, who was the 32nd overall pick. I don't know. He's a ginger, so.
Damn. Oh my
Nah, I
God.
mean, people say I'm a ginger, so I don't know.
Oh my
Thought
God.
I'd just thought I'd point it out. A bit of a jump scare on Hockey DB, and then a 4th-round pick and Tyson Berry. So I'm really sad about that 4th-round pick. But nah, Tyson Berry was what he was. When we brought him in, it was kind of just like
Yeah.
maybe if he went from Colorado to the Oilers, I would have been like, oh my God, we got Tyson.
Yeah, that's
Berry.
what I did as a Leafs fan.
But after
Oh. I was so hyped for Tyson
being in
Berry.
Toronto, I realized maybe he's not all that. And seeing him as an Oiler, he's definitely not all that.
No,
He's
I was
he's
so
a defensive
excited.
liability. And you can't afford that. You can't afford that. And he's the kind of guy that we would play decent-sized minutes. What I love about it, too, is it finally gives Bouchard keys to the top
Top power
power
play.
play. which I
And
really like.
it opens up just more opportunity for like some of the younger defensemen you have to come up now, because it's like there's less of a stranglehold, and there's not really a guy where it's like this is the GM's guy in that defensive lineup anymore.
Yeah, and even if it's not Bouchard, like even if he's not having an offensive game, Nurse can be a PP1 guy at times.
At times.
And then Ekholm as well, I think is solid.
Yeah.
Ekholm, I don't know why it completely went over my head that he signed like a 3-year extension last season.
Yeah.
To kick in after this year, but I didn't even know. I thought we were getting a rental. But
No.
Matthias Ekholm is an Oiler for the next 3 seasons after this.
Yeah,
and I'm
nothing
really
to
happy
not
about
be
that.
excited about that.
He's just like he's just a bona fide like stud defenseman. Like I'd say he's not as defensively equipped as Jacob Slavin, but I think he's better offensively.
I feel
just a
that.
similar guy where just like your team feels more comfortable when they're on the ice and can play better. And last night I did the eye test, and him and Bouchard, my favorite Oilers D pairing,
Love that.
They were incredible. He had a breakout pass that set up the game winner. Yeah, and then the other
I honestly feel like he's the defenseman the Oilers have been missing since Clefbaum left or got injured.
Yeah, Clefbaum unfortunately, had injury that's probably going to keep him from playing again.
Yeah, so
he was my favorite Oilers defenseman. Still, honestly, is probably my favorite Oilers defenseman of all time that like I've watched.
Yeah, of course.
Just because I don't know, he guy, barring not as expensive, but we got Nick Bustad for a 3rd-round pick, who's a really good player and a good bottom 6 guy. I think the Oilers, obviously we know the top 6 is good. The third line's okay, which he's playing on now. I think he brings a lot to that. He brings penalty killing. Now you got like him, Matthias Janmark, Devon Shore, Nuge, Hyman, McDavid plays some PK. We've got some forwards that like, and Yamamoto. Yamamoto is just like a motor. Like he never stops running. Watching him last night was awesome. But yeah, I just think in any situation, I like our lineup 5-on-5, 5-on-4, 4-on-5 against other teams. Watching them play last night, sure it was Buffalo, and no discredit to Buffalo. Like we held one of the highest scoring teams in the league to 2 goals. This Oilers team looks like it can be that team.
Yeah,
I think we can come out of the West, and then with the team out of the East, being bruised and beaten up from the bloodbath that's going to be, I think maybe the West can take advantage.
I think if the Leafs are coming out, they're going to be battle hardened instead of bruised and battered. But
yeah.
I don't know. I think like the kind of like the AFC in football this year. I think whoever comes out of the playoffs is going to be more battle hardened than bruised. Like as we saw with the Chiefs, like they were just so ready for that Super Bowl. It felt like they came out slow, but like it felt like they had built up that resilience. And I feel like that's going to happen in the East. And I feel like this is something I've stood by. The Stanley Cup is going to the Eastern Conference.
We'll see.
We will see. We will see. Last move by the Oilers, though, was moving on from Jesse Puljujarvi.
It's true. Yeah, that was the 3rd move.
Yeah.
For Puistola, who is actually putting up some good numbers in the Swedish Elite League Elite League. It's just kind of like cut our losses, and it freed up $3 million in cap to go out and get Ekholm and Bjugstad. We wouldn't have been able to do those moves without trading Puljujarvi. Fan favorite in terms of personality. Scored a goal here or there, but for what we drafted him to be, he just didn't live up to it. And it's unfortunate because he would have just been such a fun guy to see turn out. Like if he was like McDavid's right-hand man scoring 40 goals a year, like that would have been awesome. But unfortunately, he's now got to try again in Carolina. He's officially in Carolina now. There was a couple complications with Canadian players getting traded to American teams.
Yeah,
foreign players with work visas and stuff like that. But yeah, I like what the Oilers did. Yeah, I guess I can just run through some.
Yeah, now go ahead. I just wanted to talk about the Oil.
Yeah, and I think the Oilers now they're in the wild card position. It's Vegas, LA, and Seattle in the Pacific right now. it might be hard to jump one of them, but I really hope we do, because I would way rather play a combination of those three teams than have to go over to the Central Division and have to play Minnesota, Colorado, Dallas, Winnipeg. Those are teams that are tough in the playoffs.
Very tough. Proven teams.
Yeah. So first trade, Nino Niederreiter to Winnipeg for a second. What are your thoughts?
Love it. I'll just do some quick one-line reactions. Needed. That's the word I'd use. They needed this top six. They needed just a boost of scoring in the top six.
Wearing number 62. A little interesting.
A little interesting. Who wore that? Hagel used to wear that on the Penguins?
Hagelin.
Yeah, on the HBK line. Weird.
Former first-round pick Vitaly Kravtsov to the Canucks. I mean, I like it as a change of scenery, but I keep saying to the Canucks, and it just seems like they're a graveyard for these guys. Like,
Philip Pronik to the Canucks. Is it worth it? Is it, like, he's a great defenseman, sure. Worth a first?
Yeah.
For the Canucks?
So Islanders first goes back to the Red Wings. I mean, listen, people were, like, mad at Yzerman for selling at the deadline, like, giving up Bertuzzi, Ronick, and stuff like that. Was this Detroit Red Wings team gonna win the cup?
They're not even in my power rankings. I don't think they're good enough to be in my power rankings. Like, this was not the year.
Yeah, I think maybe a bit of an overpay for Ronick, but maybe not. I think he's a solid guy. I think he's like a little less extreme version of what the Canucks should have been doing. Like, I think going out and getting Oliver Ekman-Larsson, that's doing too much.
It was.
Philip Ronick, that's doing the right thing.
I like that. So I like that perspective on it.
With a full season of Talkett next season, and hopefully Demko healthy for the full season.
And he's been great since he's come back. Demko's been vintage.
He's really good against the Leafs the other night.
Yeah, that was annoying how good he was.
I think the Canucks can be in contention next year for the playoffs, but we'll see. I thought the same this year.
I mean, that's I thought they'd be in contention this year, but we'll see.
Ivan Barbashev to the Vegas Golden Knights for Zach Dean, who's a 2019 or 2021 first, then was on the Team Canada Gold team this past World Juniors.
I'm seeing a lot of people disappointed by the Vegas Golden Knights, calling them losers just by not going after a big name, especially with Stone going on LTIR. Mm-hmm. I like
Barbashev.
I like Barbashev. I think these were the moves the Vegas Golden Knights had to make. I just don't, I can't see them as losers. I feel like if they went out and got a big name, that wouldn't have been good. I feel like that would have set them back.
They got a big name, but the last time he was a big name, they weren't even a team. They also got Jonathan Quick.
Yep, Jonathan Quick was the big troll, which was pretty exciting.
I like him going back to Vegas. I think Logan Thompson and Aiden Hill have been playing incredibly this year, but Quick's a playoff-proving guy. Even last season, he was amazing against the Oilers in the first round.
Oh my God, yeah, he was.
I think he's probably second in my depth chart. Like, I'd probably start Logan Thompson healthy night one.
Easily.
Hill's been really good lately, but I don't know. I think Quick
I trust Quick over Hill. But honestly, it gives them three good options in net, and I think this was the move they needed to stay pat. Stand pat, and ride with this roster, which I love.
Believe in themselves also. Like they were the team that got Eichel last year. They were the team that got Stone a few years ago.
Max Pacioretty,
It didn't work out for them going and getting these big name guys. They kind of just, we're a good team. We're the first seed in the Pacific. We just need to be healthier, and I think Vegas is going to be a fun team in the playoffs.
Yeah,
I'm excited to see them in the playoffs again. They didn't make it last year.
No, they just lost out.
It's just kind of like a weird year.
I think they deserved to miss the playoffs last year for just how.
Oh, I agree, and I was really happy to see it as a Sabres kind of supporter.
Yeah.
Gustav. So this one's interesting. Gustav Nyquist to Minnesota for a fifth, but he's on IR, and there's no certainty that he does return this season, which is interesting. Giving up a fifth-round pick for that. Sure. But if he does come back.
If he does come back, it is great depth for a fifth.
He does come back. I don't hate it. Yeah, and then another guy who's not on IR, Marcus Johansson to Minnesota for a third. I really like that.
I really like that one too.
I think, yeah, I think he's a playoff proven guy.
Yep. Oh yeah. Washington, Boston.
The weird memory I have of Johansson in the playoffs is against the Leafs in Game 6.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That was a two game. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know why.
Great memories of Marcus Johansson.
But hey, that was a different Leafs team. That was a Leafs team where a first round exit was something to be happy about.
That was.
Take the Caps to 6.
Take the Caps 6. That was the happiest I've ever been after a playoff loss. No more after that.
Here we are 6 years later. Wow.
Yeah, that's insane to think. 6 straight years of that.
Another guy leaving Washington, Lars Eller to the Colorado.
I like that. I like it for the Avs.
Blanche for a second. Scored. There's a tweet. It was like, Lars Eller scored the 2 most important goals for the Washington Capitals in that 2018 Cup run. I mean, say what you will, but he scored the Game 3 OT winner that they were down 2-0 to Columbus in the first round, and they won Game 3. They reverse swept them after going down 2-0, and then he had the game-winning goal in the game clinching, or the Stanley Cup clinching game.
Yeah.
So I really like it, and I think
I like it.
Colorado, they were really good last year. Like, they looked unbeatable all season. It was kind of just like, but then Tampa was also really good, and then it was like, oh, this is going to be a really good cup final. Because they had like Nazem Kadri and other guys, and then they lost them. And then this year they're kind of like figuring it out. But bringing in a guy like Lars Eller, I really like.
Yeah, it's huge. It's like I said about Ryan O'Reilly, championship DNA.
Max Domi to the Stars for a second-round pick.
I love that. I genuinely think
Anton Hudobin.
And Hudobin. I don't think he's playing anymore.
No, I don't think so.
But I genuinely love that. Max Domi is going to thrive in Dallas. He scored. He scored already.
He was really good for Carolina in the playoffs last year.
Oh, he was. He's like, just that
very
guy.
Underrated.
He's that guy.
And then he has his career year in Chicago. You love to see it.
Him and Jamie Benn together? Please do not let me face that.
Yeah.
They're going to eat you alive.
I'm interested to see where he's playing.
No, me too. You're probably pulling up the Daily Face-Off, so I won't. But I can't tell you how excited I am just to watch how gritty that lineup's going to be.
Currently, third-line centering Mason Marchment and Tyler Seguin.
Oh, please. Yeah, I can't get enough of that. I love that line. And as a third line, I love that line. Speaking of the Stars, they made another move, which they...
that could be their first line.
Oh, if they really felt so inclined, yeah.
What was the other move?
The other move that I don't like for them, but I like for the other team involved. Evgeny Dadonov to the Stars. He's just going to play a depth role. But Gurianov getting a change of scenery. I really like Gurianov in Montreal. I think he's going to...
He's been good, too.
He's been down this year. Stars fans have not been enjoying him. But he was good last year. And I think in Montreal, there's no reason for him not to have that role where he can step up and be that guy. So, like, that was honestly one of those depth moves where it's like, under the radar, I personally loved.
No, me too. Dadonov got 3 points in 5 games with Dallas. Assists Ben and Wyatt Johnson. So I don't know. I don't hate it. And then Gurianov, we'll see what he does in Montreal.
I really like him in Montreal.
Now that I think about it, what did Montreal do at the deadline? Other than that,
other than Gurianov, put a bunch of guys on IR and didn't move Joel Edmondson.
I would have thought they would have. Yeah, I would have thought they would have been big sellers. Any piece that could have gone.
Joel Edmondson, Josh Anderson, Sean Monahan, all three
guys like that
stayed put.
Another small trade. Let me find one.
There's actually.
Jack Johnson back to the Colorado Avalanche.
There's actually 1 or 2 big trades that we've neglected to talk about so far.
Yeah, we'll get to them.
We're an hour in.
The first big trade of those two. Ottawa trades Nikita Zaitsev to the Chicago Blackhawks
Huge.
for nothing. And they give up a second and a fourth as well, which I like. They get rid of that cap. But the reason I bring up that trade first is because it gives them the cap space to go and trade a top five protected first round pick, a second round pick that becomes a first rounder if Ottawa reaches the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't know about that.
Well, we'll see.
And a second. And they acquire from the Arizona Coyotes the big rumored trade guy all season, Jacob Chychrun. And I really like this for Ottawa.
So I'll say before we get really into dissecting this, my one line that I wrote, because I love just writing one line about how I feel about things. Love this for the Sens. Hate this for the Yotes. I despise this trade for the Coyotes.
I think they could have gotten a lot more.
I think this trade shows that the Coyotes are the biggest pushover in the entire league. They have no respect. Their GM has no respect from any of the other owners or GMs in the league. And no one cares about Coyotes players. And this trade
is the first time where like they had a highly coveted player. Like Boston could have overpaid and give him 3 firsts. I mean, 3 Boston firsts.
Still, it's firsts. I mean, sure, they're cheap. It's a first. Mm-hmm. They got seconds that might become a first. They got a first-round pick that, sure, it's going to be mid-teens. Like, they're not going to get a Chychrun return from the package they got. They're just not. They're not going to get... If they get a Chychrun-type package, I'll eat my words and I'll admit I'm wrong. But I seriously doubt that they're going to make any of those pieces match the value that Chychrun gave them. I think the Coyotes are the biggest pushovers in the league. They didn't trade any of their other pieces except Richie to the Flames. Who cares? Who cares?
Or Richie.
That's what a nothing
That was the
move.
weirdest trade. It was between Calgary and Arizona.
Yeah. Traded brothers for the first time in NHL history.
And it was Brett Ritchie. Like I don't know what the purpose of that trade was.
Just to make history. Like
just to trade.
Like
just so that the Flames fans who were hoping that they did something.
Yeah, that's why the Flames are on my loser list, because they just stayed mid. They stayed so mid. Mm-hmm. And I mean,
either sell or don't. Apparently, the Bruins inquired about Milan Lucic, which was interesting.
Bringing him back. That's interesting. Yeah. So that's how I feel. But if I'm not gonna be a total negative Nancy now, fuck, I really like that for Ottawa. I love that for Ottawa. I really think he's going to shine there.
I think
he's him and Shabbat especially. It's just like
I love Shabbat, but Chychrun might be their best defenseman now. And they have him, Shabbat, Sanderson.
I'm not him. That's
Zub, Artem Zub.
Artem Zub.
Brandstrom, but he hasn't really turned out. But yeah, I mean, and then their forward group is solid. Their goalies are.
They're waiting. They're just waiting on that guy to be their guy. Like they're waiting on for a guy just to emerge out the woodwork.
I'm really excited for a full season. I'm really excited for a full season of this Ottawa team.
Oh, me too.
But looking at the standings today, they are tied with Buffalo, and they've only played one more game. So like they're in it too.
Definitely. They're right in there in my power rankings, and they're right in the thick of things with a lot of the East and West teams. Because I put them all in, they're right in the thick of things with everyone else in that late teens bracket.
Mm-hmm. I really like it for them.
Me too. And they won a lot by bullying the Coyotes by not being.
I think
controlled by them.
The Senators. That might have been I think that was the best trade of the deadline for a team.
Fully agree.
Getting Chychrun for what they gave up.
That one or the Patrick Kane trade for what the Rangers gave up.
That's true.
I think both of those were.
I really like that trade. Mm-hmm.
Really like that trade. And then the last big trade to talk about.
Well, yeah. First of all, I guess we'll just jump into it. Timo Meier and Scott Harrington and a couple other pieces but the main pieces were Timo Meier, Scott Harrington to the New Jersey Devils for Andreas Janssen, a first, a second, a seventh, a Shakir Mukhamadullin, who is a 2020 first-round pick. Very good defenseman. I think I'm really excited to see him in San Jose. And then Okotiuk, who's a second-round pick in 2019. If I looked up the random name players, and if they were somewhat of a highly drafted player, I made note of it. But Timo Meier to the Devils.
It's incredible.
He scored first goal in his first game.
First 10 minutes.
I
just fit-wise and talent-wise and skill-wise and his player type. There's not a better location you could have went.
And the thing is they can afford to maybe overpay him a little bit to keep him because you're paying Nico around $7 million and you're paying Hughes around $8 million.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Those are two really good contracts for your top two guys.
They put themselves in such a good position.
Yeah, I really like the Devils.
Yeah.
We'll get to that later if we do get into our power rankings.
I definitely still want to.
With Lindy Ruff as their head coach, Hughes finally stepping into being an elite offensive player. Nico Hischier finally just being able to play his game and not having the pressures of, oh, this guy's the guy we drafted with the number one pick.
Yeah.
No, he's the captain. He's got his extension. He's got his money.
Confidence.
And awesome. I love it. I really like this Devils team, and they're a team that people are saying dark horse just because of, it's New Jersey and they're kind of breaking into the playoffs for the first time. But I would not be surprised if this Devils team is the team that comes out of the Metro. I'm not saying they come out of the East because I think Boston's got the edge on them. I think Tampa's probably got the edge on them. Toronto Devils would be a good series. That'd be a very improbable Eastern Conference final, but we could be looking back at this months later, and that could be it.
That'd be so hype.
But yeah, I really like this for the Devils.
I love it for the Devils so much.
And it makes them... Tenders in my brain. I thought before they were just a really nice together, but now you have a guy who can score 40 goals, and I don't think they make this move and give up all his assets if they don't have confidence that they're able to give him that contract that he wants.
Absolutely.
And I like it for him. Number 96.
I think something as well. They now have 4 guys who could potentially win a Conn Smythe if they make that run. And I think that's one of the biggest things for them is that he could step up in the playoffs. Brock could step up in the playoffs. Hughes could step up in the playoffs. Hischier could step up in the playoffs. I love this. Sure, they maybe could have went out and grabbed a number 1 goalie, but how many of those were on the market? They maybe been able to grab a shutdown defenseman, but again, how many of those were on the market?
Jonathan Quick and Jonas Korpisalo, or I guess I'll briefly just say Jonas Korpisalo and Gavrikov to the Kings for a first and Jonathan Quick. I don't mind it for the Kings. The Kings are just kind of a solid team. They don't wow me. We'll see what they do in the playoffs.
Yeah, it was hard to rank them in the power rankings.
There weren't really any goalies on the block on the trade.
Yeah, so it's they kind of had to stand pat with Vanacek.
This trade deadline. Yeah, who's been playing really well this year.
Yeah,
Blackwood's had some good stretches in his career. But Vanacek's good. Another thing to note, Timo Meier, born in Switzerland. Nico Hischier, born in Switzerland. Swiss hockey players, or NHL players, hard to come by. Roman Josi, Nino Niederreiter, other guys I can think of. But just having a guy who's oh, look, he's from the same exact place as me. He's gone through these things. And I'm sure the two of them crossed paths in Switzerland playing growing up.
You'd have to assume so.
So I think New Jersey could be his long-term home. And Hughes, Hischier, Meier, I love that as a big three.
Yeah, and I have him pegged to score tonight from Petfics last night.
And then you have Simon Nemec, second overall pick last year. What's his name?
What, John Marino? They traded for from the Penguins.
Not Jack, not Quinn. What's the last Hughes brother?
Oh, Luke Hughes.
Luke Hughes, another guy, and he's supposed to join them after the Michigan season's over.
Yes, sir.
He'll be on their team in the playoffs. New Jersey's a team to look out for.
They're very much so.
And I'm praying that the Carolina Panthers lock up that 1 seed in the Metro because I would love Devils Rangers.
Oh my god, so good,
That would be a
so good.
great series.
The
A modern
battle.
day.
Oh,
Ooh.
so good. Well, I mean, I guess we could hop into some power rankings real quick before we wrap up the episode, because power rankings will be, of course, more playoff talk as well. And I think we are good just to talk about the teams now that are part of all this.
I just want to throw a few quick trades out there. Curtis Lazar to New Jersey. Really good depth guy, good face-offs guy. Jacob Vrana to the Blues.
That went under the radar. That went under the radar for me.
Yeah, for a 7th. Hopefully he can for a 7th and then like an AHL player.
Yeah,
he's been in the NHL Players Assistance Program most of the year. Hasn't been doing so well, but a guy who has the talent.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
And I hope St. Louis can find that in him. And Jordan Greenway to Buffalo for a 2nd and a 5th. I saw him play last night. He's just going to be a good, when the team needs a momentum boost, like he's going to go out, have a banging shift, like with hits, shots, that kind of stuff.
Him and Tuck are both just those energy guys.
Kulikov to the Penguins, who I like, for a 3rd, and then they also get rid of the McGinn contract. And then the last trade I'll mention, well, 2 more. Teddy Bluger to the Vegas Golden Knights.
Oh, yeah.
I don't mind that.
I like that. Good defenseman for them.
And then the final trade that David Poyle will ever make as the Nashville Predators GM was a 7th-round pick for Rasmus Asplund to the Buffalo Sabres. So I don't mind it. I think it was a crazy deadline. Like I left out trades and I had a full page of just like deals that happened. It was a really good trade deadline. Lots of stuff to talk about. Yeah. And then, now let's get into...
So, we'll talk about, some team rankings now that everything's said and done. I made my rankings on the 5th, so 2 days ago, but not much has changed since then. So, we'll get into it. We'll do our top 3, and then we'll extend that to 5, and then 10, and then we'll just compare from there. So, my top 3, and I don't think this will be the consensus. I think number 1 will be consensus, and then 2 and 3 will be hotly debated. So my number 1, Boston Bruins.
Same.
Of course.
Hard to find anything wrong with the Boston Bruins. They are gonna be one of the best regular season teams of all time. Yep. And they added like big pieces at the deadline.
It's frustrating. It's frustrating being a fan of a team in the Atlantic Division, not just the Leafs, just an Atlantic Division fan. And having to just live with knowing they exist. It makes me mad. They're that good. They're so good. It makes me mad. They feel like the Warriors. Next up, and I'll do my 2-3 is I have number 2, the Carolina Hurricanes still, and then my number 3 is the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Okay.
2 similar teams, 2 teams that are very still offense focused. Carolina, I can't knock them. They added Puljujarvi, didn't lose anything, and they still have like Freddie Anderson, Brent Burns.
They did add Shane Gostisbehere.
Oh yeah, who scored very early on
last night.
Yeah, like I completely slipped my mind. People including me have forgotten about how good Shane Gostisbehere actually is. So
because he's been on bad teams.
Bad teams. So I can't.
Now he's on a good team. I like it.
And it's really just the biggest reason they're my number 2.
Also back to Pittsburgh.
My biggest reason they're my number 2 is because they are the 2nd best team in the league, record-wise. And they stayed put, and all the changes they made there's no hindering happening here. Only getting better. And then my 3 being the Leafs, maybe a bit of homerism, but I just think the acquisition of Ryan O'Reilly, now that he's injured, sucks. But just the acquisition of a guy like that... I guess I'd bump the Leafs down below the Devils now because Ryan O'Reilly's hurt. So Devils at 3, then Leafs at 4. Because if Ryan O'Reilly's still healthy, I keep the Leafs at 3 because of how good that top 6 was when he was there. But I guess now that he's gone, it's hard not to say that the Devils are better than them. So screw the injury, but we'll actually move the Devils up to 3 and say Devils are better than the Leafs right now. And actually move the Leafs down to 4. But I can't put the Leafs lower than 4. So I'm keeping them right there.
Can you see still?
What's that?
I said, can you see me still?
I can now.
Okay. Yeah, it was just tech. Yeah, I have Boston number 1. Can't really argue with that. My number 2 is Vegas.
Vegas.
Um,
Vegas at
just when I was
2.
doing these rankings, they are 7-1-2 in their last 10. Pretty good. And they're just a solid team. I think Stone's not healthy right now, so I guess if you factor in Stone or O'Reilly and Stone, maybe put them down a bit.
Yeah.
But I like them. It's hard to find flaws with their lineup. Maybe goaltending, but they went out and got a guy like Quick, so I really like that. And then my third, I have the Devils.
Yeah, who?
I really like the Devils.
I have the Devils at 3 now, which I have them written in front of me at 4, but I've moved them up.
Yeah, and then my 4 was Carolina. So
Nice.
Also up
of
there
course,
with you.
up in the top 5. Again, they didn't change their team, so I completely respect you not overrating them. And then my number 5.
Yeah.
My number 5 might be a little surprising, just the way the season's been going for them, especially how they've been playing lately. But I still have the Tampa Bay Lightning as a top 5 team in the league.
I thought you were going to go the same way I'm going to go. I have Colorado number 5. Just in terms of like the way I was kind of doing this top 10, I only did 10. Curtis went a little deeper. It was just like top 10 right now. Mixed with like, that's why I have Colorado still high.
Yeah,
Then
right now mixed with what they could be doing later on. Even then, it's just the goaltending situation in Colorado scares me so bad that I can't put them higher than other teams I trust more.
Yeah, that's fair. But they won the cup. Not to say Darcy Kemper isn't good, but they won the cup with a little bit of like a question mark in net. And I don't know. I think Georgiev. Hit or miss. So
Yeah.
his save percentage is good. It's just he has games where like he just doesn't show up.
Yeah, it's just, he scares me a lot, honestly. So yeah, moving on, I'll do 6 and 7, which are 2 West teams, which are, I think, the first 2 West teams that appear on my ranking, which is why I'm so confident the Cup's going to be an East 1 team. I now have the Dallas Stars at 6, and then the Vegas Golden Knights at 7. With the Mark Stone injury. Mark Stone fully healthy, Vegas is above the Stars. But as we talked about the Stars, their top 9 looks crazy good. And then especially their young players stepping up, the trades they've made, the defense, Otter is playing really well, and they've been rolling. It's hard not to put them in that 6th spot above the Vegas Golden Knights just because of injuries.
Yeah, I think I might have dissed the Stars a little bit with these rankings. I have the Leafs at 6, Oilers at 7. After watching them last night, I have confidence in this team more than previous years.
Yeah, that's fair.
We made it all the way to the Western Conference Finals last year. I'd like to get back. I'd like to win regionals. My 8 through 10 to wrap out my top 10.
Let's hear it.
I have Minnesota 8.
Nice.
Who Minnesota is 8-1-1 in their last 10, playing really well. The only reason I don't have them higher, and I also like their deadline moves. The only reason I don't have them higher is like Fleury's been weirdly inconsistent, and I think that's the guy they roll with in the playoffs. On the other hand, Philip Gustafsson has been really, really good. One of the best goalies in the league. I think like his stats and Allmark's stats are like comparable.
Which is crazy. That's a crazy statement even to say.
Like not in terms of winning because he hasn't played
but
that many games.
the percentage stats.
Mm-hmm. I'll try to
trying to pull up the stats of that real quick just to see.
And then I have Tampa in 9th. Then I have the Rangers in 9th. Or Rangers in 10th.
Rangers in 10th.
Where is he?
So I'll do mine quickly while you run through that, because I'll just wrap up. It's mostly the same teams, just in different spots. My 8 through 10 is 8 is the New York Rangers, which they could jump up after watching their new acquisitions play. And then number 9 is Colorado, because of what they're capable of and how good they actually are, especially Bowen Byram. He's been stepping up huge lately. And then my number 10, to wrap out my top 10, Edmonton Oilers. Just beating out the LA Kings, who are above them in the standings. The Kings are above them in the standings, but power rankings wise, I trust the Oilers a lot more. Mm-hmm.
I'll try to. I'll try to pull up the stats of that real quick. Just to see.
I power rankings wise, I trust the Oilers a lot more.
Where is he? Then Seattle. I like Seattle. Mark
Mm,
Jones have the stamina in a 7-game series.
no, me
I
neither.
have the Philip Gustafson stat now. In 29 games, 27 starts, he is 17, 8, and 3. So pretty good record
Yeah.
with a 933 save percentage and a 1.99 goals against average.
Oh my.
But they're going to go with Fleury probably just because it's Fleury.
Probably. Yeah, because he's playoff Flurry. Who's to say he doesn't lose that job though?
I would like to see them roll with Gustafson.
So
They have a better chance.
I'll just quickly run through my the teams and the rest of the teams remaining in my power rankings. I want you just to give your thoughts on these teams and just their chances in general. So 11 through 22, these next 11 teams, we have the Los Angeles Kings in a playoff spot, Minnesota Wild, who are one of the hottest teams, the Winnipeg Jets, who are again in a playoff spot, Seattle Kraken, New York Islanders, Buffalo Sabres, and then we're starting to reach the teams that might miss the playoffs with the Pittsburgh Penguins, Calgary Flames, Ottawa Senators, Florida Panthers, who, yeah, Nashville Predators, and then the Washington Capitals, who I have on the bottom of my list.
Panthers have been kind of doo-doo this
Yeah,
year.
sadly doo-doo.
Like they're in a weird middle position, but I feel like they could have aggressively sold. I feel like they probably have some pieces.
They just, the big story of them is they had no pieces for buying. They couldn't ship anything off to get players in return. And so they kind of just had to stand pat, which,
Looking to do that.
yeah. But no, the biggest takeaway for me is the Penguins, the Panthers, and the Capitals all are getting leapfrogged by bad teams that we've watched be bad for a while. That's the biggest story for me from that power rankings. He's back.
Yeah, I mean, I just think there's the top teams, and I don't know. I'm really really excited for this playoffs. I don't know what it is. I think the deadline does have a lot of, reasoning in why I'm so invested in the playoffs, because so many teams, kind of are in a all or nothing kind of state of competitiveness. So I think it'll make for some very entertaining hockey.
No, I think entertainment-wise, especially for player movement-wise, this is the closest the NHL's ever been to the NBA. And now for excitement going into the playoffs, parity-wise, anyone can win. Anyone. I like to say that the cup is going to go to the East, but, I don't really know that. Literally anyone can win it this year, and I'd be like, yeah, they deserve it.
Yeah.
That's how good every single top team is.
Yeah, I mean, the team I would say is, if they won the cup, I'd be like, the most is, I don't know, maybe LA.
LA, yeah, or LA and Seattle would be my top two for that.
Yeah.
Maybe Minnesota. Even then, Minnesota's been solid enough. But yeah,
a weird Minnesota. After all of this at the deadline, the team that acquires Nyquist, Marcus Johansson,
it brings on all these contracts to retain salary.
Yeah.
But
end up coming out on top.
I really think this is going to be one of the most storybook playoffs that we're going to have, and it's going to be such a treat. It's going to be such a treat.
Mm-hmm. It will be. I'm just going to throw out a fun hypothetical. If the NHL still did 1 through 8 playoff series, what were the matchups we'd get? We would still get Rangers, Devils.
Thank goodness.
We'd still get Toronto, Tampa Bay.
Boo.
Wait, why is it the same? Literally, if it's 1 through 8 in the East, it's the exact same series. Leafs, it's Boston versus Pittsburgh, Hurricanes versus Islanders, Leafs versus Lightning. I want to see if it's any different in thing.
That's so funny.
Wow.
Is it really the exact same in both?
The top two teams. The King. Well, there's games in hand, but the Kings are the 2 seed in the West.
Really?
Yeah, it
Wow.
goes Vegas.
And they
Vegas
aren't
versus
even in my top
Colorado.
10.
Vegas versus Colorado, round one. 1 versus 8.
Oh, wow. What a treat that would be.
And then LA Winnipeg, 2 versus 7.
I'd like it. It's a very not hype series, but it would be fun to watch.
Yeah.
It's like there's no
So you get the
fanfare.
whiteout. I always like seeing Winnipeg in the playoffs.
I think don't LA also do a whiteout? Like just because they wear black and white. Like
I feel like maybe.
I thought they did against
I know
Edmonton.
Arizona also does one.
Yeah.
They did one last time they were in the playoffs. And then Dallas, Edmonton.
Oh, again, another fantastic series.
And then Seattle, Minnesota.
Weirdest series. That's another. Like, that one being right in the middle, it's so weird thinking that the middle teams in the West playoffs, 4 and 5, are Seattle and Minnesota. Not Edmonton, not Colorado.
Like, I was saying that I want the Oilers to get into the Pacific Division so that they can not play the Central. But, like, I don't know. A weird part of me wants Seattle versus LA, just as like one of these teams is gonna win a playoff series, and I'd be going hard for Seattle.
I'd be going so hard for Seattle there. No.
And then so the East, the West. So the West 9 seed is 5 points back of the West 8 seed.
Yeah.
So a little bit of a difference there.
It would take a big jump for that to
that's
change.
And that's Nashville. So and
Which
then Nashville and Colorado. So unless there's a big fall off or a big jump late season, I feel like the 8 teams that we have in the playoffs right now for the West will be those 8 teams. Calgary also kind of in the mix.
And then the East is like
but then the East,
10.
the East, the battle for the wild card in the East is going to be, I'd say, the storyline of the season from now to the end of the season. I think with the contenders, it is what it is. They're going to be good. What happens once they get in the playoffs? That's what we're worried about. But right now, for Buffalo, New York Islanders, Pittsburgh Penguins, Ottawa Senators, Florida Panthers, and Washington Capitals.
Maybe even throw the Detroit Red Wings in there. It could be 6. Like,
I know, but that's a good amount of teams for only 2 spots, so it'll be fun.
It'll be super fun. No, I can't remember being this excited for a playoffs before coming up for the NHL.
And then just some live reactions to current scores, because why not? I have them at the top of my screen on NHL.com. Pittsburgh, at the end of the second, losing 4-1 to Columbus.
Losing 4-1. Columbus? We are hoping and praying on Pittsburgh downfall right now.
Playing spoiler. And then Tampa's up 4-2 on the Flyers. Leafs and Devils tied 1-1 after 2. And then Florida's beating Vegas.
Wow.
And then Buffalo, in a crucial game, is up 1-0 against the Islanders.
That is a huge game. Well, a lot of good games on tonight, and I really can't stress how exciting the rest of the season is going to be. So
I think in the last month I've been more into hockey than I've been, in the last little while, and I think it'll stay consistent. We obviously want to produce episodes as consistently as we can. It's tough. In the near future, we do have NBA deadline recap because that was pretty crazy too.
Also, yeah.
And then we'll also have preview episodes for both the NHL and NBA playoffs, and then a little baseball, probably at some point.
MLB
spring training's just
preview.
Underway. We'll get a season preview in.
Yeah, so
and a lot of movement. I was at work a little bored today, just looking at the MLB rosters, and so many so much went over my head. Like Xander Bogaerts to the Padres. What?
Like they're gonna be so stacked, but no, there's so much to look into for baseball.
It'll be a fun season.
I have one last thought before we wrap up here. I was watching the 2009 NBA All-Star Game last night, a bit of a non sequitur, but I was watching it and it was so special. There was something about it that was just special, and it was the players were actually playing, sure, but I think when we go back and look at old All-Star games, it is a collection of all of the best players in the league, and the reason it's so special is because on any given night, you get to see 1 or 0 of these guys on a regular NBA game. But now that we have player empowerment and player movement and stars moving to play with other stars, we're seeing all-star games as regular NBA games. Yeah. I think the fact that we have guys like James Harden and KD and Kyrie all teaming up makes the point of the all-star game useless.
Yeah.
Why play an all-star game when a regular season game has 6 all-stars in it?
Another thing, too, that has been thrown out in the NBA is expand.
Yes,
they have the market for sure to add teams, and it would also just add something to the league because pretty much every single team has a star player in the league. Like
every team has one or borderline 2.
Yeah, and then I would say Seattle and Vegas would be my 2.
Yeah, Seattle, Vegas, Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh would be my 1.
Pittsburgh does not have an NBA team. Yeah, but you make a good point. The All-Star game has just lost its touch. Take in, like 10 seasons ago, the NFL Pro Bowl used to be like a full-on tackle.
Yeah, full tackle, and they were smoking each other.
It was entertaining to an extent this year. I didn't watch the game. I watched highlights, and it was fun to see. I think in like when they don't have equipment on, they're mic'd up, they're able to give their personality a little bit more, and the NFL has some great personalities. But like they were like, it's actually crazy to think they were just playing like football. Like people probably got concussions from the Pro Bowl.
But I think if we want to fix, like, there's no fixing the All-Star game because the point of the All-Star game was to see every good player in one space. And now in a regular game, we see every good player in one space. It's removed the specialty. If we watch the Bucks play the Celtics, I was
just gonna say,
that
was my example.
Yeah, we got Middleton, Drew, Giannis, Brown, Tatum,
JB,
5 All-Stars. Why watch the All-Star game? Warriors is the worst. Warriors games. Clay, Steph.
Warriors versus Suns.
It's an All-Star game. When I don't know if you watched the Clippers versus Suns game, or Clippers versus Warriors game. And they were just leaving Russell Westbrook completely wide open. Like, I get it's a strategy, but watching that game made me upset because it didn't feel like I was watching basketball. It made me feel like I was watching the baseball games when they would shift all the players to one side. It doesn't feel like baseball. That game didn't feel like basketball. It felt like an exhibition.
Another thing about baseball, pitch clock. We'll talk about that in our baseball episode. I think baseball, it's going to be a good year for baseball. They also kind of have like a teaming up problem.
They do. They're
a big teaming up problem. But that's been like a historical thing.
Yeah, agreed.
Just because of the Yankees and the Dodgers.
Even the Oakland Athletics.
Who would win in a game? The 2007 East starting lineup, I don't even know who it is, versus the 2017 Golden State Warriors starting lineup. Like, it's crazy to think that like a legit lineup, you could make the argument would beat an all-star team.
Yeah, and so that's like, I was just thinking about that last night. I was like, this is why the All-Star Game's ruined, because we have too many All-Stars teaming up, and there's nothing you could do about it. I think the state
another thing too.
Oh yeah.
Another thing too is it's just kind of like in old All-Star games, you'd be like, oh my god, like, I don't know, Kobe playing with LeBron and stuff like that. Whereas now it's just like, oh yeah, like KD and Kyrie, KD and Harden. Oh, we've seen them play together.
Exactly.
It's not like these guys playing on the same team. It's not as hype. Yeah.
It's no longer a crazy thought to think that star players will be together at some point. Mm-hmm. So that's why I think that's why I think the NHL All-Star Game is still like fun to watch, because the NHL All-Star Game is a lot of players.
All-Star Game.
I like it too. It was a lot less hype this year.
I just think
every All-Star Game was unhype.
The NHL.
But I think for the NHL All-Star Game is we saw guys like McDavid play with guys that he'd never ever play with. We saw guys like the Tkachuk brothers play with guys they'd never ever play with. Like in basketball, I don't doubt.
Know how to fix the NHL All-Star Game? Bring back the draft.
Bring back the draft. I completely agree. I think if we're going to fix All-Star Games, make it as festivity heavy as you can. Don't make it a game. Make it a festivity. Call it the All-Star Fest, and don't call it the All-Star Game. Sure, a game will be played, but it's not a game.
Yeah.
I think that's the way
Make
to
it a
save it.
complete fan experience.
Exactly that. At a 4-point line.
NHL All-Star Game is in Toronto next year, so I might be looking at ticket prices.
We might be.
I would think it'd be fun.
I think that'd be a good experience. Go cover that, but no, I was really happy with the NHL trade deadline, and I really think it set the playoffs up to be one of the most special playoffs we've had in a while, and I am excited to talk about that when we get to it.
Mm-hmm.
But
we are very privileged as sports fans.
Yeah.
The months of April, May, and June, going to be able to come back home and watch like a classic every night.
Every night. So that'll do it for
NHL.
Yeah, that'll do it for this episode, and we'll go back to watching sports. So we will have more to talk about. Hopefully in a week or maybe even less, we'll have an NBA trade deadline for you guys. So thank everyone for watching, and we will see y'all in the next one.